Good morning, sir. How are you?
Oh, how are we doing? Yes,
N-
I'm
nice, n- nice to see you.
to see you nice, as Bruce Forsyth would say. Right, let me have a quick sip of coffee.
Yeah, I just finished my coffee. Now I'm on to the water.
No, there's a certain point of the day, and I'm probably passing it now because we're just approaching 12 o'clock, where the coffee starts to work against you.
Yes,
It's,
yes. I'm definitely one of those at 1 or 2 in the morning, or that's it, or I have a problem running to the bathroom all day.
just one more coffee, just one more coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. How you doing? Great to meet you.
Great to meet you too, pal. I'm doing
It's
very well.
it's a pleasure, and I'm honored and humbled that you even thought of me to have me as a guest on your show.
No, don't be so bashful. No, this is it's all been leading up to this. It's all been leading up to this. Is that calculator one of your items for today then?
No, actually, yeah, no. When I usually do my videos, I'm down in a music room in my basement, and the main computer is up here in a little office space that my wife uses for her job, and so that's her little calculate item back there, and her little map of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts back there behind me.
I remember when Paul McCartney said to me, Matt, take this calculator, and may it further serve you in good stead. Ooh. Yeah. That would have been that would have been quite the anecdote had that been in a part of reality. So basically, I've just got a couple of the generic kind of questions about memorabilia and collecting at the start, and about yourself, and then we'll just launch into the 5 items. It's
yeah, sure.
It's a very purposefully simple format, really. One that I've
I've been really enjoying your channel and watching some of the different folks that you've been speaking to, and it's been a lot of fun. I really you got a great little format going here.
No, I actually stole it from the biggest podcast here in the UK, Word in Your Ear, with the 2 guys who used to work at Q Magazine.
Okay.
And they do a
That's
word
awesome.
in your attic, but it's not Macca specific. So I just thought, hey, I kind of like the rhyme of Macca and attic.
Yeah.
Let's go with it. Let's go with it.
And now I'm just curious. You're from the Birmingham area, correct?
I am Sailor Sam from Birmingham. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I
lived in the UK for 2 years, but I was in the service, in the U.S. Air Force, assigned to an RAF base in East Anglia, Suffolk, outside of Ipswich, which is towards the eastern seaboard, I believe.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know how far that is from Birmingham. It's been so long since
I only have a push bike at 28 years old. Miles and distance in this country is very, very different for me.
I loved it over there. I loved being in the UK. It was fantastic.
No, everyone keeps telling me to come over to America whenever there's the next big Beatle fest, and I do need to kind of suck it up and make that cross Atlantic flight.
Oh yeah, oh my goodness, that would be fantastic. Yeah.
No, I'll just take some Xanax and knock myself out.
Yeah, there's a couple next year, I think. Hopefully they happen with
back on. Fingers crossed, eh?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Now, the last one I did, it did not do the. Now I'm going to make sure that the video is not or just alternating back and forth. How do I do? I forgot how I did that. Touch on my appearance? No. General share screen. Yeah, side by side mode. I don't know. I did.
Yeah, that's what I see right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Wicked. Maybe it's because my screen's not. No, it's not. It's not showing it for me. View. How strange. Oh well. Let me get out of full screen.
Don't ask me. I'm like a dinosaur. I'm a caveman. I am so terrible with this technology.
I have a kid who does all my thumbnails for me. Like I'm not the
I'm bad. That's all I'll say.
No,
I need to take more lessons.
we all need our own George Martin, don't we? Or or maybe even just a Mal Evans from time to time.
Yes.
Right, here we go. Loosen up, loosen up. The hat normally comes off within the first 10 seconds, just so you know.
That's okay. I love the hat, by the way. That's from the recent sets, right? The recent
Yeah, I got this.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
like, it was the worst time ever to get a red hat, though. When like it came out, I was like, oh dear, everyone's gonna think I want to make Mama Miss America great again, you know. And then I got the yellow one, but I also want the blue and the white, of course, just to get
Yeah, nice.
it's
You got the whole gamut, the whole collection.
the most recent hat I bought. I just stumbled across Weird Al's merch store, and I just bought a hat that says Weird Al Yankovic on it.
Yeah, we love him over here. My kids and I do. He was great.
I feel like every single Beatle podcaster or Beatle YouTuber I talk to about Weird Al also secretly loves Weird Al. That's a nice little cross section there.
Absolutely.
Shame his stuff has never been reissued though, because he's just not popular enough. You know, it's you know,
you have to hunt over here for it, or either go to Amazon or something to grab some Weird Al stuff.
I bought what I thought was a vinyl from a charity shop online here in the UK, and then I got Alapalooza on CD instead. I was like, yeah. Oh well, I guess. Right, okay, properly sound professional.
Don't worry about it. You don't have to be professional with me. I'm very unprofessional.
Hello, and welcome to Macca in Your Attic, a Paul or Nothing spin-off show where my guest always shows me their junk. Together, we're going to go through their attic and sift through the tit and the tat to find the primo Paul McCartney material. We're going to see 5, maybe even more items from their collection, maybe with their own unique, fun, interesting story, hopefully. As always, folks, be sure to check out the Patreon page for loads of episodes that are still in the can, yet to come out. Hit me up on paulmccartneypod@gmail.com or @McCartneypod on the Twitter if you want to say hi. Today, I'm once again joined by someone whose various backgrounds in their YouTube videos and thumbnails is an orgy of evidence that they'll certainly be bringing some interesting items today. He's the creator and curator of the excellent Matt Street YouTube channel, and we're keeping him off the streets today. Folks, please welcome the titular Matthew Street. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much, Sam. I am honored and privileged to be here.
No. You've been a in-demand figure. I've heard you on Two Legs. I saw that you've just been on Ken Michael's YouTube channel as well. You've hit the big time, baby.
Yeah, yeah. I guess in my dreams, I'm very, believe me, when I started this little foray into Beatles and music YouTube, I had no idea that I'd meet such wonderful people and have the experiences I've had. This has been like surreal.
Totally. And, you know, there was a certain point where I realized on my social media that all the people I'd grown up with and drifted apart, they're no longer the people who like all of my posts. It's just, Kit O'Toole, Ethan Alexanian, Ken Michaels, you know, it's just all these wonderful people that I've bumped into. And, you know.
Yeah, it's a huge family. I never realized how widespreading it was until I got involved in this, how many people have such a passion for something that I always thought I was the only one in my life that had such a passion for, and then you realize it's opened up to the world, and it's amazing.
Are there kind of waves of YouTube Beatlers? Because I know that there was kind of like there was the original big dogs of Beatle podcasting. Then about 5 years ago, my lot came in. Then we've had the COVID wave of podcasts that have come out. So I'm guessing YouTube may have had the same thing where during COVID, boom, there's loads more content that's hit the airwaves. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I definitely was this past year able to have more time and really had the desire to get more involved in making some more videos. So yeah, this past year was very productive in that.
I've been binging a lot of your videos in the lead up to this, and yeah, I'm gonna be jealous at the start of the episode, Matt, shall we say? There's a lot.
So?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, even just your latest video, I'm already rolling my eyes at that. Yep, that's another person who has it, and I don't. And we will start off there actually. Now, having watched said video, I think I know what your answer won't be. But who do you feel is curating their legacy the best at the moment? Is it the McCartney camp, the Starkeys, the Harrisons, or the Lennons?
Well, if you asked me prior to a couple of years ago, I would have said Paul, definitely. That Paul is really carrying forth with his legacy in such a fine manner. But I would say in the last couple of years, the Lennon estate has really come on strong with these Give Me Some Truth release, the Imagine release, Plastic Ono Band, and they seem to be really thinking about what the fans want, what the fans are desiring. And I thought it was a really nice touch with the Lennon estate to send out some items to different Beatle fans ahead of time so they could preview it for their friends and followers. I thought that was fantastic. I don't think Paul has done that yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think his camp has really sent out a lot of items yet. And I noticed the Harrison estate did it this time. But I would say right now, I would have said Paul a couple of years ago, but I think Paul and John's camps are really carrying forth their legacy in a fine manner right now. And nothing down on Ringo or George. I think they're also trying to do a good job with it, but I just think there's a couple of stumbles here and there.
No, there's definitely an arms race going on now, especially since Lennon and Harrison kind of entered the ring, enter player two kind of thing. And it's reached a zenith with the All Things Must Pass box set. And something that, I always used to go on about when I was poor and didn't have any Patreon support was how expensive all of this stuff was and how I couldn't afford it. And now I've got a bit of adult money and I've got Patreon support and I've got a certain freedom that I never had before. But it's always still in the back of my mind, God, this is expensive. Like, this McCartney 3 box right here, this you can't see it. The 3 Imagine box. Just there. £60, that'll be what, $120 US, $180 Australian. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely insane. And is the increasing price of a lot of these box sets something that worries you? Do you think there's going to be a moment where there's a crash and there'll just be one release in a couple of years that just doesn't sell because it's just too expensive?
That is quite possible. But then again, I look at the Harrison recent release of All Things Must Pass and I say, okay, like myself personally, I couldn't afford to spend $1,000 on that Uber set.
Loser.
Yeah, I know. I do think it's beautiful. I don't begrudge. I'm not one of these, bitter people with sour grapes that comes on and says, "Oh, why are these people wasting their money on that?" Blah, blah, blah. I'm happy for you. If you can afford it, if it makes you happy, if it pleases you, if it's something you treasure and love, I think it's great. Like I said in one of my recent videos, I was mesmerized watching Tom and Andy Nichols from Two Legs open Andy's Uber box. I saw Norman Maslov opening his. I was mesmerized by it. I just thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I myself personally can't afford it, so I don't begrudge anyone for getting something like that. But I have to say, with the All Things Must Pass release, it does run the gamut from $1,000. If you want to just get the little 3 CD basic set for like here in the US, like 20 something dollars, you can do that too. So I don't know, like you say, is it going to get to a point where everything just crashes? I don't know, because next time they could release a $1,500 Uber super duper deluxe box set and there'll be someone who can afford it and will purchase that. And as long as they have different products going down the line, different affordability levels for people, I think everyone finds their little niche. Okay, I can afford this. Oh, I would like that. Oh, maybe I'll get these two here, but I can't afford this. So I think it's going to continue. I don't predict it crashing in the near future, but I may be wrong.
Have you ever heard of a private collector commissioning stuff from MPL or Apple? Jeff Bezos commissions Phil Ramone Sessions album for Paul McCartney, 1 copy to be made. Has anything like that ever been released or hit the market? Probably not, right? Probably not.
I've never heard of anything like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, could that possibly happen? That someone could have so much money that they could actually say, please, could you make me this special edition, such and such with this? I don't know. I've never heard of it happening. I would hope it wouldn't get to that point where only someone of that status could get some of this material down the road. I would hope it's available on some level for everybody, no matter what your financial means are.
No, speaking of Ken Michaels earlier, like it was always a shame for me that he's totally unsuitable for this format and for this show, because he's not a collector in that sense. He just cares about the music. And
Right, right.
if physical formats were suddenly banned by a totalitarian government and you only had streaming, Ken Michaels wouldn't, his expression wouldn't change on his face, because his life wouldn't be affected at all.
Right,
And
right.
there is a certain point where it's like, is there anything actually new here? And I'm such a philistine when it comes to remixes and re-releases and remasters. But I was listening to All Things Must Pass today, and I just can't hear it. I feel like I'm stupid. I'm not hearing something. But when Abbey Road came out, didn't really hear anything. White Album didn't really hear. The only one that really made a difference to me was the Sergeant Pepper 50th anniversary one. I was like, oh, this actually sounds different, marketably so.
Yeah, everyone has different
Yeah.
ears and stuff. Like
Do you hear it though? Do you hear it really?
No, I tend to agree with you. Actually, the Sergeant Pepper one was very stark difference for me, and I really enjoyed that remix. A little less with the White Album, and a little less so with Abbey Road as far as major differences. Although there were different nuances there and things I could pick up. With this All Things Must Pass release, I definitely hear differences in it, but I don't look at it as a bad thing. Actually, I thought it was actually positive. I said, wow, this sounds pretty good now. I like it. And it doesn't mean I can't go back, or we can't go back to the original one if we feel the need to. We can certainly do that. But I really, I'm in the camp of, I enjoyed this new remix. I'm not complaining about it at all. I think they're wonderful. But I do agree with you. Some of them are a little more stark than others. And yeah, it does get to a point. How much of a remix do we need to do to really make it that different than the original full-blown stereo or mono mixes? I don't have the answer for that.
A lot of it comes down to the fact though that just the remixes and remasters and alternative versions that we want to exist in that kind of anthology way just doesn't exist across a whole album a lot of the time. The closest you might have would be like the Glyn Johns mix of Let It Be. Like that's just a different version of that album, like straight up at a different point in history. But
Right.
You're not going to have that with Please Please Me recorded over 2 quick recording sessions. It's not like, oh, here was a version from June earlier that year where it's please me, oh yeah, like I please you.
Right.
It doesn't exist. And
yeah, I've always been curious how they're going to, starting with Sgt. Pepper, White Album, Abbey Road. Now, allegedly this year, we're going to get the Let It Be stuff. Once they go back, are they going to go back to the early albums? Please Please Me with the Beatles for Sale. Are they going to release super deluxe archive sets, in big boxes with all kinds of extras? I'm just very curious to see how are they going to market it and present it so it's something people have to have, especially the hardcore collectors. I'm sure they'll find a way to do it, but
just call it the 50th anniversary. Like people in the future aren't going to care. We'll all give it a wink and a nod. We'll all pretend it came out in, what were 29, whatever year.
Yeah.
It's there's 5-6 albums to choose from there. But yeah, let's wind things back a little bit. When did you first get into Beatle collecting, McCartney memorabilia, Beatle memorabilia? Was it when you first started getting into the music?
Yeah, I was a young child. When I was 3 years old, and I'll tell some of the story when I show one of my items here. My parents bought me Beatle albums in 64, 65 when I was a little kid. And they were a little old for the Beatles. They were in their early 30s at the time. But for some reason, they thought that this new band from Liverpool was, when they came to the Ed Sullivan Show, was some kind of fun gimmick that all the kids were into. And they just thought it was kind of neat to buy their young son a couple of the albums and put them on their little hi-fi stereo. And I would get on my little toy Pinto Pony spring horse, those little horses, you can go like this, you can bounce up and down. And they'd put on the records, and they said I would go crazy on my little horse. I'd bounce up and down, I'd go back and forth. And so that's where it started, with my parents buying me the records. And then as I got a little older in the 60s, my cousins, who were a little older than me, they started turning me on to the Beatles music. And then my mom might buy me a magazine at a store, or my dad might bring me a record from his day at work, he would stop at a record store, and I can tell you more about that with one of the albums here. But yeah, that's where it started for me. I was a very young boy, and it was a slow burn. It just started as a child and getting a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit. And as I got into the early 70s and kind of came into my own 10, 11, 12 years old, preteen, then I started collecting more and more and more. And it's built over the last 50 plus years. But I must say, I'm a piker compared to some of these collectors out there.
Oh,
And if you
yeah.
have, and let me tell you this is that in my life, my personal life, before all this technology and crazy stuff like this, where you meet people from all over the planet, my family and friends thought I was the Beatle collector. Wow, you know, he's got everything.
You're
He
a
has
small
everything.
fish in a big
Oh,
pond. Oh,
you just nailed it, Sam. That's it. I am I'm a little minnow in a pond of blue whales and orcas and everything.
people treat me exactly the same. Like, you know, there'd be a shot of me as a goldfish, and then behind me is a great white shark that's Tom Hunyadi, but then behind that's Megalodon, which is Andy Nichols.
Yeah.
And then behind that you've got Cthulhu, which is Beetle Brad. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And God bless them all. I'm so happy for them. I love their collections, and I'm mesmerized by what they have when I watch them on their channels. But yeah, I am not. I try to tell my family and close friends. I say, you have no idea what people collect. There are people with dedicated rooms in their homes to just their Beatles collection. It's just wall to wall shelf. You've seen it, you know, shelving and posters and promo items. And now, granted, I have a lot of stuff. You could come over my house here in New England and come in my little music basement, and you would see my records, and you would see collectibles on a shelf. When I do my videos, you see some of them, but that's in presentation form, you think, wow, Matt must have a lot of stuff. But in reality, what's out there and what other people have, as you say, I mean, I'm a mere amateur compared to some of these people. I'm very proud of my collection. I'm happy with what I have. And if something floats my boat and I find it and I want it, if I can afford it, I will get it. But I don't have everything. I'm so far removed from that level.
Oh yeah, and then not even just that, because of course, like you say, you've got the people who have the Indiana Jones warehouse of just boxes and boxes and boxes.
Yeah,
But then you've also got people that I've also had on the show here, like Dan Ely, who just has a bass guitar that has been played by Paul McCartney. And it's like, you don't need 23 copies of Chopper if you've got that, you know. I'm happy with that bass guitar. Thank you very much. And I'm sure.
And again, I'm so happy for these people. I think it's great. It warms my heart to see all these people that are into it as much as I am, because growing up in my life, I'd meet Beatle fans here and there. I've had a couple of friends over throughout my life that were really into the Beatles, but I've never met anyone in my direct personal life that were into them as much as I was, until I started meeting folks like you and other people here. Then I realized, oh, okay, I'm not so weird and odd. You know, there are other people that have an appreciation for this music besides me.
No, it's very validating when you say to someone, no, I need to get 6 different versions of Where Soleil, and they go, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do actually.
Because I'm not used to hearing that throughout most of my life until technology expanded our universe a little bit. You know, I was hearing a lot of, how many Beatle albums did they put out? Like, didn't they only put out like 12 or 13 albums? What do you mean you're getting another Beatles album? Well, you know, I realize there's the Beatles stuff, the solo stuff. There were the bootlegs. There was this release. There was that release. You know, and it ends up you have a rack like 5 feet wide of Beatle albums, and they just like scratch their heads and look at you like, didn't they only put out 13 albums? How do you have so many Beatle albums? But you're right. And when you meet people that say to you, oh, that's great, that's cool, yeah, but you need to get this and this, and you know, like you said, the validation, that was the fun part.
I've got a very distinct memory of a partner I was with at the time, and she was looking at me whilst I was on my laptop, and she saw me like go into a bit of a huff and a sigh. She was like, what's wrong? And I was like, you wouldn't understand. And she's like, what's wrong? I went, they're not releasing Wings Over Europe as a separate vinyl, okay? I'm upset. And I was physically like, I was tense, my shoulders were up, and she was like, does it matter? And I'm like, no, okay, it doesn't matter, but it's also everything right now.
I went through a period of time like I remember when back in 2013, Paul released the song "New," which was going to be from the forthcoming new album, and I thought it was like the funnest, bounciest new thing from Paul. Kind of like a got to get you into my life kind of vibe to it. And
Mhm.
I'd get so excited about it. And this is long before I was here. And so I remember sending out a link to the song or something to a couple of friends and family members saying, "Oh, here's Paul's new song," and all that. And the response I got was just so deflating. It was just like, uh, I really don't care kind of thing. It's not that important to me, like busting my chops in a fun way. They weren't being mean spirited or anything, but it was just like, wow, you're really excited about this. Like, yeah, I am, but nobody else really was. And it was kind of deflating, uh,
No, when you're meeting new people, you have to have what I call the brilliant teacher enthusiasm, whereby if you're enthusiastic about any topic, you can teach the most uninterested child. So
right.
the moment someone says, "Oh, you have a podcast, do you?" And if I'm trying to make this person like me, I really have to just launch into my pre-prepared elevator pitch of what my podcast is to make it sound the most interesting thing
Yeah, right, right.
possible. What you mean? You just talk about albums that were released 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
know.
and how old are you? Irrelevant,
Yeah.
irrelevant. This is the one game actually where it's uncooler to be younger. Actually, it's quite an interesting dynamic. Actually, what does this young man know? You know what I mean? There's a
Yeah.
lot of that. Speaking of, I mean, I don't wish to be presumptuous or anything, but your references to the little rocking horse does date you somewhat. So please do not be offended when
Yes.
I ask the next question. What was it like being a collector pre-internet? What was it like? How did you know what existed? How did you know what didn't exist?
Yeah, it was very difficult. Like, there were fanzines, they called them in the 70s. Like, I forget when Beatle fan started. That might have been late 70s, but there was an old guy I'm in the greater Boston area, and there was an old gentleman who's now since passed named Joe Pope,
Mhm.
and he started a fanzine called Strawberry Fields Forever. A few years after that, coming into the early 80s, was Charles Rosenet started a fanzine called Good Day Sunshine. There were all these little, almost like newspaper quality magazines, and they developed and got better over the years using more color images and that. But in the early days, they were just very basic, and they would come out once every 2 or 3 months. You would get one, and it was like gold. When you received that little pamphlet or little mini magazine in the mail with all the latest Beatle news and what was happening, and there might be classifieds in the back where you could somebody was selling cassette tapes of Beatles at Sam Houston Coliseum live 1965, or it might be you could buy a bootleg album on a plain white sleeve with just a piece of paper taped to the front. Beatles live at Hollywood Bowl 1964, so, and it'd be very poor quality, but anything you could get. I remember looking at one of those magazines, they had a little Beatles kit you could get. You got a pin, a little poster, a very crude bumper sticker, and like a little 8x10 that you could hang up. But it was all crudely made. It wasn't like really fancy looking. It was like a black and white picture of them circa 1968 slapped in a one of those homemade button machines, and they'd make a pin button out of it, and they'd send you like a 2x1 poster of them, and you were just so happy to get that in the mail because you had something special and something unique that you'd never seen before. So yeah, to answer your question, it was very difficult in those early days for me. My mother would be in a pharmacy or in a store and see a magazine and pick it up for me and you just pour over those pictures, and every little bit of written word in there was like gold to you. Like, oh, what, learning about them, and it was hard. It was difficult, but as the years went on, it progressed, and I learned about Beatles conventions in the 80s, in the early to mid 80s. I started attending those in the southern New England area, and or record shows started to pop up, and you could always find Beatles stuff there, but much more difficult than it is nowadays. Now it's just a click of a button. Let me look up on eBay. Yeah, I want to get a Beatle doll from 1964. Oh, let me look it up. Oh, they're going a little expensive. Oh, that one's cheaper. Okay, click. I got it. It comes in the mail. It's like, I think it's so much easier now for a young fan to collect and and retrieve what they want to add to their collection.
I've said this before, but like I think it's easy for someone like me to romanticize that era of being like, "Ooh, have you heard? There's a guy in a trench coat selling 'Give My Regards to Broad Street'
Yeah.
session tapes out back. You got the stuff, you got the ice."
No, it's funny you say it was just like that. I remember going to some early conventions, and I won't say which conventions they were. And the one I'm really referring to, it's long gone now anyway, this convention. But I remember getting there and going to a table and going to a guy. He had like some stuff, and I was like, and someone said, "Yeah, ask that guy." So I went up to him and said, "Hey, I'm interested in the, the full 9 CD box set of the complete BBC tapes." Which was a big bootleg made by the Great Dane Company or something. It had all a book in it and all this fancy stuff. And he goes, "Go up to room 222 and knock on the door twice." Okay, like whispered it to me. Okay. So you'd leave the main convention hall and you'd go up the elevator to room 222 or whatever it was. And sure enough, you'd walk down the hall, you see other people coming the other way, like kind of like, "Yeah, hi." And you'd go to the door and you'd knock, and sure enough, you'd open the door and you'd have this cornucopia of Beatles bootleg albums and perhaps CDs when CDs finally came out.
Seedy. It's so
and
seedy.
you would, you go out and he'd have a video, a little TV set up with a VHS recorder, and he was selling bootleg tapes of like the Ed Sullivan shows or whatever things they had on videotape, and one would be playing for your viewing pleasure so you could see the quality of it. And it was never great quality like after the anthology came out, but and you'd be in this room and you'd be flipping through the things and he'd be standing around watching. Yeah, it was like it's just as you said, a guy in a trench coat, but you'd buy your little wares, he'd put them in a little bag and say to you, don't advertise this too much. Like, don't be flapping your mouth out, when you get back down to the main convention. Don't be selling me out here,
There must have been some point where there was a Serpico style sting where a young man such as yourself goes into a hotel room and there's a gun. "Don't you move, motherfucker!"
It had to have happened, because I remember eventually some of the later bigger conventions put a big halt to that. It was all like, they didn't want to know it here. Right? Do you better not, think you're going to come here and try to sell, bootleg, fan club only type issues. Don't even think about it, or you're going to be in trouble. So they really cracked down on it.
In the same way that a government will crack down on drugs, and you've got those guys saying, "Yeah, but dude, the government can make so much money on taxes with pot, right?"
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that this is a parallel with Apple, but it's like, hey, NPL, put out hot hits and cold cuts on vinyl. We'll buy it. We'll buy
it. Well, look at it. We're buying. It's happened since then. I mean, when the anthology came out in the 90s, that was really the BBC. That first BBC album in 1994 came out, and it's been opening the floodgates ever since then for all these cool releases that have been coming out, archive editions with alternate tracks and demos, and we're seeing it now with All Things Must Pass. We're getting what we wanted years ago. It's finally coming to fruition.
No, I just hope we don't get like a Harper Lee situation where like the Beatles are in their late 90s. It's like, "Oh, just sign this, Mr. McCartney. Yes, I'll release the Carnival of Light. Not a problem."
Yeah. Yeah. You hope the quality remains high and
everything's being put out for the right reasons.
The legacy is preserved.
No, I can't wait for the 50th anniversary release of Ringo's rotogravure and stuff like that, where we get a giant magnifying glass made out of cast iron.
Only 10 more years till Stop and Smell the Roses. Right? It's coming. I'll be an old man then, but who cares? I'm old now, so
they should do. I was going to say they should do like a Nadir box set where they have that. They have Give My Regards to Broad Street, Sometime in New York, and then whatever the nadir of Harrison's career is. I don't know it well enough to even know what that album would be. But you put all that in
Gone Troppo.
Gone Troppo. You pop that in there, and you just try and sell 10 copies.
That's it. Yeah. I'll be curious when all us diehards. I mean, you're a younger fan in my mind because I'm so damn old. But it's when us old folks here, another 20, 25 years, and we start fallen by the wayside. I'm hoping there's a whole new generation behind us that there's going to be a market for this stuff for re-releases and archive sets and boxes and stuff.
No,
I
they're
would
going to
think, I
have
would think their
to.
music is so powerful that it will carry forth. It's carried on this long. I can't imagine it's going to ever fade that badly where people
I'm
just
really
know
scared that there's
mark.
going to be some sort of Call of Duty or Fortnite downloadable content where you get to play as Paul McCartney while you're blowing the heads off of your teammates. You know, it's going to be, you know, it could reach a horrible future in that regard. Holographic Beatles is something I'm scared of.
Oh yeah, that whole video with Paul, I have to admit it was very intriguing to me, and I actually did a video where I praised it. I was like, my goodness,
The video was great. Yeah.
I thought I was going to hate this thing. I really did. And then when I saw it, I was like, wow, you know, it made me, I don't know, it made me feel warm inside. Like, wow, younger people are going to see this and go, what's this all about? Who's this Paul McCartney? Oh, he looks kind of cute and handsome there. And maybe do some of the background and learn about the history of it and how we came up to this point. I thought it was a cool little video, and it enhanced the song by Beck. I liked it. I know what you're saying. You worry about a day where it's, hey, we're going to see the holographic Beatles tribute show or something, but I don't know. I just think anything that can keep that legacy alive, that can keep their music and spirit alive, and garner interest in younger people to follow their music and their careers. I'm leaning towards that it could be a positive thing. I don't see it as a negative, but there are people out there that are adamantly against, you know, putting faces on things or holograms or creating, you know, look what they can do with movies today with technology, you know, make a King Kong movie and 99% of it is all digitally created, you know, but it looks like a real monster, or it looks like a real tiger running around or whatever. If they can do that, can they manufacture Elvis Presley and put him in a film? Can they show the Beatles as younger men and put them in a film for a scene? You know, and have it look so real. Like, you know, remember Carrie Fisher in one of the Star Wars movies? They had a scene where they digitally created her.
It was good enough. It was good enough.
It was good enough. It passed muster to be in the film, even though we all knew it wasn't the real Carrie Fisher. But I'm saying, could that be coming with music, with seeing Freddie Mercury on stage once again in a film or in a presentation?
A lot of it comes down to,
bad? You know?
As long as the bone structure and the facial structure of the person portraying them is enough matching, I feel like that's the real key. Because going back to that same Star Wars movie, I can't remember the actor's name, but the character Grand Moff Tarkin is also in that movie, and the actor's dead, and they just digitally like recreated him rather than like de-aging him or anything, and that failed as a visual effect for me. But with this Beck one, they've clearly got some young actor who looks like Paul McCartney enough for the technology. Not, you know, the technology doesn't have to do all the hard work.
I'd love to see a special. How exactly did it? Did the actor wear like a green covering so they could then digitally add the image, or like a green screen thing, but over the head? Or did the actor just appear as you and I are now, and then they digitally enhanced it? I'd love to see a special how they created it, you know.
I'm glad they didn't have Paul play himself, because as we saw with Scorsese's The Irishman, in the scene where an aging Robert De Niro has to pretend to beat up a much younger man, the body language doesn't work.
There
was a Marvel movie where Samuel L. Jackson was digitally de-aged, and you see him like get up off the floor, and he's like,
yeah, that's how I feel when I'm trying to get up off the floor. Yeah, it doesn't look like a 25, 30-year-old man attempting it.
You know, in A Hard Day's Night, when they're all running around in the field, you couldn't have that with Paul and Ringo digitally. No matter how fast you speed up that footage, you know. I can play on stage for 3 hours, but as long as I'm standing still and I sit down for half of it.
As long as I'm not moving too much, I'm okay.
Yes. Although no one really moved all that much when I saw Paul live, or whenever I've watched much footage. Like, you don't see Brian Ray like running around like doing the old
Ringo does a little of that. I don't know if he still does. I haven't seen Ringo in a few years, but Ringo used to be up there doing jumping jacks and running from one end of the stage to the other. But that's last time I saw him was about 10 years ago. I was supposed to see him last year, but then with COVID, it's been postponed till 2022. So I'm praying Ringo still stays fit and trim and comes out next year, bounding out onto the stage at age 81, 82. So we'll see.
I'm annoyed that Ringo didn't get to do any of the cool, like Neil Peart stuff, like, you know, playing the drums upside down on a spinning stage, you know.
Like Motley, Tommy Lee, Motley Crue, strap him in and spin him. Peter Chris waxing up with smoke and lasers and all that stuff.
He should have a concert where he's just trying to find the brushes for a whole song.
Yeah, just like the movie there. Yeah, that'd be good.
Now, just one last question before we launch right into your 5 items. Is there anything that's slipped through your fingers? Anything you regret not picking up?
Once years ago, I had a little record store in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and anyone who watches The Family Guy will have heard of
the Pawtucket Brewery. Oh my God,
Pawtucket Brewery. Oh my God. But yeah, where I grew up was the next town over from Pawtucket. My dad's from Pawtucket, actually, and there was a little record store there. It was like my little mom and pop record store for many years during the 70s, 80s, coming into the 90s, but then it closed. And back in the early 80s, I want to say 1981, he, for the hell of it, he had a butcher cover, a Third State. It had been peeled.
Oh, interesting.
And he had it up on the shelf, and the list price was $100. It was up there with a little card next to it. It was on, behind where his register was on the shelf with other items. There was a Third State butcher that had been peeled. There was some damage to it from the peeling. $100. I mean, I could go to my bank right now and take out $100 and buy it in a second and have a butcher cover. But back then, I was 19 years old or so. I was still in the service. I was home on leave. I saw it, and I was like, what were we making? Like, $250 a month or something, whatever I was making in the military. And my parents were not of the means to just throw $100 at me. And I remember seeing it, and that $100 seemed like so much money at the time. Like, wow, I wish I had $100. I could get that butcher cover. I didn't get it. And that was the one time, probably the closest I will ever come. That's 40 years ago now, that I could have had a butcher cover for only $100. And now I don't think I'd even spend the money to try to get one at this point.
No, it's a shame you didn't have a kind of Three Kings plan going on where you were smuggling gold out of some war zone. This is just for a butcher cover, okay, Chief?
Yeah.
This is
Give me a couple of bars of that gold.
So all I'm saying is this record store is under martial law now. That's all I'm saying. And we need to seize all the assets here because we're pretty sure it's funding domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
Right. On that note, let's have a little trip up into your attic. I know these probably haven't come from an actual attic. I hope that I never cause an accident where someone has to go up a ladder and then they fall because of this terrible show. Just had a horrible thought there. But yeah, please take me through the first item in your quote-unquote attic.
Okay, well, real quick, is a real quick bonus. I don't know how rare this is, but I found it in my collection, so I thought I'd show it to you before I get to the main piece of vinyl I want to show you. It's called Limited Edition Etched Disc, made in England, figure of 8, Ue Le Sole, Paul McCartney. I don't know how rare this is, Sam. I'm being honest. I had it in my collection.
1 second.
Okay. Help me out then, because I don't know where I got this thing. Here's the label. It's not, well, it shows a little bit. There's the etching, a little etching.
However,
I don't know anything about this, Sam. I'm being honest. I grabbed it because I saw it and I said, maybe Sam knows a little bit about this thing. It says made in England. I don't know when I got it, but is it a hard to find item? Is it common? I don't know.
I've seen quite a few over here, but again, if it was made only in England, then that would kind of explain the bias there. The unfortunate part is, I don't know if I can get this to so do you see that horrible tear down the back just here?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
That was me taking another vinyl, shoving it in my vinyl rack hard and fast.
Oh, gee.
I'm sure there's a very crude sexual joke I could make there, but I will refrain from doing so. But yeah, folks, if you do get this, do not play the etched side. By the way, it's purely
absolutely
it's purely visual.
Maybe I'll do it. Play it on my Crosley. No, I don't have a Crosley.
It might be the one time Paul didn't have a song to fill out a B-side.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's just it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, just put some pictures back here. It'll be good enough. No, I just saw it and I said, oh, that's unique. I hadn't seen that in years. It's just been sitting in my record rack. And I said, oh, man, maybe Sam knows something about it. But yeah, I don't know how rare it is. But all right. So anyway, let me get to my regular piece of vinyl.
Let's have a look.
And it's sentimental. This piece of vinyl in itself is nothing. You look at it, you go, okay, it's a Wings at the Speed of Sound. Still has the little hype sticker on it. It's still in the shrink wrap. But it's sentimental to me. This, I will never part with it. I will never play it again. When I was a young boy, I remember I told you earlier that my parents bought me Beatle records in the early 60s and throughout the 60s in real time. Well, my dad worked in Boston. He used to take the train in every day, and where his office was near Jordan Marsh store, which Jordan Marsh to Boston is what Macy's was to New York City, meaning that was the go-to department store, Jordan Marsh. And he would go over to the record department. Back in those days, in the 60s and 70s, they had record departments, almost like going into a library, and a librarian would help you find a book. People would work in the record department at these big department stores and help you find music. Like, may I help you, sir? What are you interested in? What would you like to, you know? And they would bring you around. Oh, you're interested in light jazz? Well, may I suggest this new release? So that was that kind of store. So he would go in and get records for my mother and they would listen to, you know, the old Ray Conniff or light jazz or Al Hurt or, you know, that type of music. But as I became a child in the 60s, like in the Beatles, he would, every once in a while, he'd pick up a Beatles record for me at this Jordan Marsh, and he'd bring it home and he'd put it on my nightstand at night. So when I would get up in the morning, there would be Beatles 65 or Beatles second album would be sitting there. And I would just be like Christmas, you know, I'd get up, oh, wow, there's a Beatles album, you know, and I'd get up and look at it. And well, anyway, to make a long story short, because I tend to gab, this one here is the final one he got for me at Jordan Marsh and put on my nightstand. I was 14, going on 15 years old. So by that point, you know, I was getting ready. I started working at a golf course, had my own money. I could buy my own records. But this one, Wings at the Speed of Sound, 1976, when it first came out. And if you look close, there is a
just there.
Jordan. You can hardly see it, but it does say right. Jordan Marsh right there. It says right on it, Jordan Marsh with the price code and everything. So this was the last one he got for me and put it on my nightstand. After this, I was buying my own records, but this is sentimental to me because, you know, Dad got it for me. He's still with us. God bless him. He's going to be 91 in a couple of weeks. And he lives with us here actually. And it just means a lot to me. This record just means so much that it's something he got for me at that little store in Boston, brought it home and put it on my nightstand. So I love this little album. It means so much. So
that's gone right to my heartstrings. That really has. Though the first thing that comes to my mind is Jordan Marsh. That's the most Boston sounding department store.
Jordan Marsh. Yeah. Over my life, I've tried to correct my New England or Boston, Providence, Rhode Island area accent, but sometimes when I get worked up in videos and that and start really, I lose it all and just the R's are gone. I'm not pronouncing them. So.
Man, Scorsese
Jordan Marsh.
Scorsese did nothing for that part of the country. He really didn't. All I know is that is the Departed. That's all I know.
Oh yeah.
And okay. Bill Burr as well. He's the current kind of Boston patron. Who was
that again? Who was that?
Bill Burr. The
oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm kind of I'm in the middle, kind of. I'm between Boston and Providence, so it's like a little bit of that Boston comes into my inflection, and Providence, Rhode Island, Pawtucket. You know, I get. You know, some people say if I really get my voice gets high pitched, I sound like Peter Griffin from Family Guy, but I don't. Sure I would go that far.
A compliment. I do a rather good Stewie, but that's a different story for another time. Let's go on to item numero.
Sure. Dos. Okay, back in 1970s and 1980s, this company called ESCO, Entertainment Statue Company, used to make these reproductions of celebrities, musicians, actors, and whatnot. and they would sell them for about $40 each. And you would see them a lot in like bars or pubs behind where the bar was, up on shelves. They were these big headed figures that were very odd looking. They had big heads, little tiny bodies. They were made out of like a chalkware, plaster of Paris type material. And like I said, you'd see them in steakhouses, pubs, bars. And where you could purchase these a lot, you'd be in a mall, in a smoke shop, a tobacco shop, and they would have these all, you know, W.C. Fields, Sammy Davis Jr., Frank Sinatra, the Three Stooges. And back in 1984, I went into a smoke shop and I bought the Beatles. They had them for like 40, which at the time was a lot of money for me, $40 each to get all four of them. Now, these are not mine. This is an image of what they look like. If you notice, they were kind of dull looking. They were just spray painted in kind of dull gray suits. The skin flesh tone wasn't that bright or real cheery looking. Okay, so that's that. My mother, who was a very artistic woman, she drew pictures. She was an artist. She was a baker. She was a great cook. She was so talented. Rest her soul. She passed away in 2018. But my mom was very talented, artistic. And so when I bought my Esco dolls, Esco statues, I should say, these are from 1984, she said, we need to spruce those up a little bit. And so she did ceramics, and you're working with clay modeling and mold. And like I say, you put these in they have paints when they do their ceramic little people and put them in the oven and cook them and all that stuff. Well, she got some of her ceramic paints and she enhanced my Esco guys. Now, I don't know if this has hurt the value of them or increased the value of them, but that's what Paul looked like before. Okay,
wow.
see it right there.
Oh, be careful. Hold it with two hands, Matt, please. Oh, God. Oh, God. Please don't. Oh, God. I get so much anxiety over fire safety on the show. Like I always say to my guests, you do have a fire extinguisher nearby, right?
Yes. No. Anyway, bless her heart with her artistic talents and her ceramic paints. She helped enhance the suits into a beautiful sky blue, so they'd really be colorful with black collars. The shirts are enhanced, the ties enhanced, the Beatle boots are shining.
He is the cute one. Oh my gosh.
The face is just beautiful skin tone now. And I have all four of them. They're all four painted like this now. I'll put him back here.
Of course, Paul is the most appropriate. Of course, yeah.
But because this is Macca in the attic, I brought up Macca. But as you can see, she did enhance it quite a bit. Now, I don't know if that's hurt the value or not, like I said earlier, but it's a beautiful little keepsake, and it's one of my treasured from 1984. It's almost, wow, it's so old, 38, 30, whatever years old. And yeah, I keep them up on a shelf, very safe. I'm always paranoid one's going to fall over in an earthquake.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that.
Smash. Since 1980, and many moves, several moves in my life. And since 1984, I've kept them all safe and have them. So there's Paul. There's my little Macca statue from the attic.
Any hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes? Because I know your country is just full of natural disasters left and right.
Yeah.
Please put them on like a low shelf near pillows or
low shelf, and then put bubble wrap all around them. So yeah.
Anyway, it's a bit of a trite question though, but obviously you don't actually care about the value for them at all, do you? Because the sentimental value is
I know a regular set like this now, to get it like online, it goes anywhere from like $600 to $2,000, something like that. That's a big range, but that's what I've seen them for, Sam. So around 600, 700, and as expensive as 2,000, which I'm sure is on the high end. But no, I don't know if the painting job on him now is ruined that value. I don't care. It's sentimental. It means something to me, and it's a very collectible, rare item, so it's unique.
I love that. Oh, do you remember that? You know, you always see those stories. It's like Italian lady in village tries to touch up 14th century painting. It's the best version of that because it didn't go wrong.
Yeah,
I think that's perfect. Now you mentioned,
thankfully it wasn't ruined with like by accident a mustache was painted on him or something, but no, it came out good.
Making McCartney 2 era Paul, yeah, definitely. You mentioned a couple of moves there. Have you ever had to purge any of your collection or anything like that?
No, I don't think I have. I always kept my Beatles stuff until we moved here and I had a little more space to put things out on my little cabinet and such. I had these little like wooden lined trunks. They almost look like, treasure chests, like black on the outside with metal and a lock in the front. And I had like 3 of those. And I kept everything in there, all stacked up, the books, the 45s. And as I made moves, I just moved those trunks with me. And I've never purged anything, Sam. No, I've kept everything that I've collected, from the first magazines I got as a kid to early records I received, like I said, from my dad, my early Beatles stuff and solo stuff he gave me. I've kept it all. Yeah.
Ever lost anything?
Oh.
Because there are two. I lost a copy of Let It Be Naked on vinyl and a US version of Rubber Soul as well.
Oh my goodness! You have no idea what happened to them. Did you lend them?
I've got some ideas, but I don't want to. I don't want to speak to that person again. I'm afraid.
No, honestly, knock on wood. I don't think I've ever lost anything. I think I have pretty much. If someone hey, I want to see, show me that record, Beatle 65 your dad got you with Jordan Marsh. I could probably dig it out for you, So yeah, I pretty much have everything.
I want to hear Martin Sheen say Jordan Marsh in his terrible accent now. That's all I want to hear. What's in third place? All
right, third place. Okay, back in the day, this, again, the sentimental thing. There was a little store near my house, a department store that sold records. And when they would display albums, obviously albums, you could have them in a rack, in a rack, and you just flip through the racks like this. But 45s, they used to mount them on with cellophane on these cardboard cards.
Yes.
This would be mounted in cellophane. And this one happens to be, in the United States here, Girls' School and Mull of Kintyre single.
Wrong way around, Yankee Doodle. That's the wrong way around. Oh.
And there's the actual single with the picture sleeve to Girls' School. And yeah, Mull of Kintyre is on the back here. I could flip it around.
Some other obscure track. Yeah, whatever.
A beautiful track. I love Mull of Kintyre, but it's on the Capitol label. And I like this because I've had this since 1977. And for some reason, out of all the singles I bought that came on these cardboard holders, this is the only one that survived all these years that I hung on to. Girls' School is the main side here, and McCartney Wings. And yeah, I took the single off eventually and sealed it in plastic, the original picture sleeve. But this is the way it would have appeared in the store, and you would flip through the racks. And but
would it just be the one at the front, or would they all be wrapped?
Oh, there'd be dozens of them. You'd be flipping through and find what you wanted. But out of respect to you, I will show the proper side.
Oh, that cheesy photo with that weird Photoshop. I don't even know how that worked. I don't know how they did that image there. Love it.
Yeah, but this is
that is a better cover. It is a better cover
Yeah, but I just thought the viewers would get a kick out of not only seeing that single, but the fact that that's the way they were presented, on these cardboard things. And I just kept this since 1977 and thought it was kind of neat to show.
It's very telling that it says McCartney Wings on it as well, not just Wings.
Right. And just as an aside, I just show a couple little bonuses. I've always been proud of Harry Mary had a little lamb picture sleeve.
Ah, nice.
I like that. That's one of my favorites. And Give Ireland Back to the Irish has always been one of my favorites.
That's a pricey one now, that is.
Oh, is it really? Okay. Yeah, I've had this a long time. It's on a nice little label with the shamrocks on there and the lyrics over here. But yeah, that's one of my favorite singles, along with my Mull of Kintyre Girls' School on the placard there.
No, I'm still agog that there was a culture, maybe less so with my parents' generation, but definitely with my parents' generation, the idea of just, you buy the record, what a sleeve! You just throw that thing away. You just
Yeah.
throw that sucker
Yeah.
away.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I imagine an original sleeve of like Love Me Do is just the rarest.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have something like that. I think I have an original I Want to Hold Your Hand backed with I Saw Her Standing There, which was their first Capitol single here in America. But I might have that. I think I have a couple of the 45 picture sleeves from Capitol. But yeah, you're right. Something like Love Me Do original. I can't even imagine the price of something like that.
No, it's like if you get a time machine, do you go back and prevent World War II, or do you just tell children in the 60s, do not throw this stuff away? You're
Oh my
losing so
goodness.
much money. Oh my God.
Think of the memorabilia, or walking into a department store then and seeing all the like Beatle dolls or whatever lined up in a row for like $2 each. And if you'd only had a time machine, you could go back with $100 and buy up lots and lots of all this memorabilia and stuff and store it away in a closet until 2021. I know, crazy, right? And people
Dude,
outside of
come
this
on.
Beatles realm would think I'm nuts the way I talk, but
You've got this ultimate godlike power. You could go and do anything. Go save Kennedy. No, I've got more.
no,
important
I
things
want to go
do.
get some Beatles Remco dolls and a butcher. I want to buy a butcher cover when it's still in the store.
A decent second place would be just going up to like George Martin and just be like, record everything, George. Record everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything.
Don't get rid of a thing. Don't get rid of it.
Right.
Next
up.
Next up is kind of like a little family of stuff here, is when right after Paul's 1989-90 World Tour, he did that great Unplugged special.
Oh, yeah.
And I was infatuated with that special. I loved it. I thought it was great. I remember seeing it on television at the time, on MTV or whatever it was. And I bought up a bunch of stuff over the years and just kind of saved it. And one is just a sealed cassette of the Unplugged album. It's there it is.
Now, there weren't too many pressings of this, either the CD or the cassette, were there?
No, this cassette, and they were all numbered, if you remember correctly. So this one's numbered, as you can see there.
Do you know out of how many?
1, 4, 110, and I'm sorry, I don't know how many. I don't know how many were total, but is in the tens of thousands, I believe. So that's
up to 999,000, if the label is to indicate anything.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, if you go by that, it could be 99,999. Yeah, about 100,000. So, and I got a sealed old CD box.
I love CD boxes. They're such a cool relic of the past.
Still in the shrink wrap, and this one's number. I don't know if you can see the number for it. I don't see a number. I'd probably have to rip it open to see a number.
Don't you dare, Matt.
I won't do that. So, that's a CD. And then I've never worn this, but at the time I bought a promotional shirt of the album.
Oh yes. Now we're cooking on gas, folks.
I guess he did some Unplugged shows. He did West Cliff Pavilions and Southend on the Sea.
Yeah, he did about 5 or 6 shows. Yeah,
and then he did Falconer Tifrit Copenhagen on July of 1991. So 30 years old or so. Like that. And then the last thing I got is, I believe it's a Spanish pressing, I believe, but the album number is
Unplugged. Yeah.
Here's the vinyl. I just love this recording so much. And my number is 4284 04284. But if you look at the writing on it, it's all in like, I don't know, it's hard for you to see, but it's all in Spanish or.
Yeah. Oh,
it's in Spanish. I don't know if this is a Brazilian pressing or a
Portuguese. Yeah.
Maybe when people see this video, they can help us out here. I don't know what pressing this is, but it's on a. Everything's in Spanish or I don't know what language. I honestly don't know.
There are a lot of songs on each side as well. Wow.
But it's probably one of my rarest McCartney albums. They said it's a very rare.
I don't think I've ever seen an Unplugged vinyl.
I don't know what country it exactly is. If it's Spain, if it's Uruguay or whatever, I don't know. Maybe someone can help me when they see that. So
It's
I love
interesting.
Unplugged. Love it.
I've just noticed the star in the bottom right hand corner of it. It's the same star placement on Snova or Chobber, so it further
Oh yeah, yeah,
linking the two albums together.
yeah.
Are there many
Yeah,
alternative variants, like different coloured guitar, like rather than the green? Is there a pink one or anything like that?
geez, not that I know of. No, I've always known it to be the basic, green design like this.
Hmm.
CD, vinyl, same on the cassette. I've never known it to be different.
Because that's the best thing about Chobber. It's not the fact that, someone in the USSR went, we must make money for mother country by releasing several editions of same album. It was just,
Right.
they had a decentralized record making industry. And so you had 5 or 6 different factories all over the
Right.
country
Right.
making the same album. And there were differences. That's even cooler than just Paul going, oh yeah, I kind of want to fake my way to number 1 by releasing 37 copies of the same album.
37 colors of the same.
Although,
I
I don't know, I can't remember who said it, but someone did say in Paul's defense, he doesn't really do the whole include an album with my ticket thing, which also helps a lot of legacy artists.
Oh yeah,
as well.
yeah. Buy a ticket to my show, get an album, and I get 50,000 more sales.
Yes, even though you probably already bought the album.
Yeah.
But no, incredible. Not only is it a vinyl copy of Unplugged, it's a foreign one, so that's like double points.
Yeah,
in it.
I need to determine what exact country pressing it is. I don't know at this time, but I'm hoping someone out there when they see your show will give me some idea.
I'd be very surprised if it was a Japanese pressing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, definitely not.
To be fair, you could get a Google Translate app on your phone and just until it actually translates to English.
Good point. I could plug in some of these words on the back, and yeah, I think I'll do that. Thank you. Great idea.
I will be waiting for a 4-part video series on YouTube where you go through it.
I'll do an Unplugged video and I'll go through everything.
Links to Sam's podcast can be found here.
Absolutely.
Here. Yeah. Right. Come on. Last but certainly not least.
No. Again, I've got to tell the story like others have told kind of their stories in their videos with you as well. Is I have to tell about my meeting Paul story.
Oh no, not again.
But I'll start with the photo. Okay. I'll try to tell this story quick because I know we've been chatting and we're getting.
No, come on, go for it.
Okay. Back in 1990, Paul played Foxborough Stadium. It was the next to last stop on his Paul McCartney World Tour, 89-90 World Tour. The next stop after Foxborough, Massachusetts at the stadium was Chicago, Soldiers Field, and that was the end of the tour until the new World Tour in 1993 for Off the Ground. Now, I worked for a security public safety company organization at the time, and we were contracted out to Foxborough Stadium to provide security for stadium events. And my supervisor knew I was a big Beatles fan, and he was so helpful, just such an, when you're the Beatles fan in your local, wherever you work or school or your friends, that's Sam, he's the Beatles guy. Oh, that's Matt. Yeah, Matt, he's the Beatles nut in our group. Everyone knew I was a Beatles fan. They knew I was a fanatic. And so they were so helpful to me. So my supervisor said to me, okay, on July 24th, Paul's playing at Foxborough Stadium. On July 25th, he has a night off. On July 26th, he's playing the second date at Foxborough Stadium. Now, I had tickets to both shows months in advance. I was going. The first night on July 24th, I went with a good close friend of mine who is, rest in peace, has since passed away. He came on July 24th with me. On July 26th, I took the entire family. Mom and dad came, my brother and another girl, and my wife and I, 6 of us went to see Paul at Foxborough Stadium. Fabulous shows, wonderful. Paul's fabulous in concert. It was life-changing, loved it. On that middle night, July 25th, my supervisor came to me and said, listen, it's very hush-hush, but Paul is going to be flying in by helicopter to Foxborough Stadium, to the helipad about 200 yards behind the stadium. He's going to be landing. It's a fenced-in helipad area. He's going to be getting into a limousine, and then he's going to be driving up to the backstage area because on that night, Richard Lester and the film crew for the Get Back film you know, I don't know if you recall that film that came out as a result of the first Paul McCartney World Tour. They released a home video about that tour in the show, and Richard Lester was the director of that. He said they're going to be doing some close, tight shots for this video they're working on. Paul's coming up to do close-ups. The band's going to set up, they're going to pipe in music, and there's going to be 1,000 fans allowed in to witness this, to have kind of like a mini audience in front of Paul and the band as Lester and the crew film these tight close-ups of the band for the Get Back film. He said, so I need somebody to take one of the security vehicles to that helipad, wait there. When the helicopter lands, you're going to escort the limousine with Paul up to the backstage area, get him inside safely, and that's it. I said, wow, you'll let me do that? He says, absolutely. You're a Beatles fan. Who else am I going to get to do it? He said, just be at this place at this time, be in uniform, be ready to go, have your hat on, look professional, blah, blah, blah. He says, that's all I can guarantee you. He says, I can't say that you're going to meet Paul McCartney. He says, you know, just do what you do. I said, are you kidding me? I said, just to be there and be 20 or so yards away from him as he gets out of the helicopter and gets into the limo, I'll be thank you so much. So anyway, I want to try to give you the Reader's Digest version. Sure enough, that night comes. We went to the show the first night. My friend and I loved it. The next night, I get all ready, get my vehicle. I get down to the stadium. I go to the helipad. I back my car into the enclosed area. And there were fans around that night. You would think it's an off night. I'm sorry, let me back up a bit. The night before, as people were at the first show, they had 1,000 blue tickets for this special video shoot the next night, the quiet night, the off night. 1,000 fans got these blue tickets as they entered the stadium, and those are the people that were allowed in for the video shoot. But it still seemed like a lot of fans around. As they got down to the helipad, there was still people outside the helipad waiting for Paul. There were people at the backstage. It was still pretty chaotic. So I get there, I back in, I wait. And as I'm waiting there, a gentleman comes over to me and sees me standing there. He starts making a conversation with me. Hey, how you doing? Hey, I really appreciate you doing this tonight. And here's what's going to happen. The helicopter's going to land. Paul and his entourage are going to get out. They're going to get in the limo. And then we're going to got to get them up to the backstage area as quickly as possible. Blah, 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 blah. Yes, sir. No problem. And he starts talking to me. He goes, what do you have there in the front seat? And I had my 35 millimeter camera, and I had a bunch of T-shirts and gifts, just in case I bumped into Paul or Linda or Jeff Baker or somebody.
Beatle fans don't fuck around, do they, Matt? They don't fuck around.
I was like, just in case. I said, if by chance I see Jeff Baker or somebody, hey, can you give these to Paul for me? Hey, can you give these to Linda for me? And they were like, some of them were like, you know, like law enforcement type shirts, animal rights. I had a couple of really cool, like, with like wildlife on them and stuff that I know Linda would like, and different sizes. I had a big bag of shirts and stuff. And so I said, I just brought some stuff for, you know, for maybe to give to Paul or Linda, some animal rights T-shirts, some police T-shirts. I got my camera here. He goes, I'll tell you what. I said to him, do you mind giving them to them for me? He goes, I'll tell you what. He says, after we get to the backstage area, I'll see if I can let you give them to him yourself. I go, I almost fell over. My jaw hit my chest. I was like, really? You would actually try to do that for me? Yes, absolutely. I'll be happy to do that for you. So we appreciate you doing this and being here and blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, thank you so much. So I'm like a nervous wreck. The helicopter lands, Paul gets out. Linda gets out. I think their son James got out of the helicopter, and I think it was Jeff Baker, their old PR guy, got out. There was 4 or 5 of them all together. The limousine backed right up to the helicopter, and as Paul gets out, there's people outside the helipad. Paul, you know, the typical pandemonium, and he waves and stuff, and he gets in the limo. And I was happy as a clam at that point to say, wow, I saw Paul. He was close to me. Great. Boom, he gets in the limo. They slide open the helipad gate. My car goes out in front with my lights on. There might have been another car in the back, and then the limo's in the middle, and we go flying up the 200 or 300 yards up the hill to the back of Foxborough Stadium to where the backstage area is. And as we're driving up the hill, there's fans on both sides. Paul, Paul, Paul. You know, and I'm sure he was doing his usual thing with the window down and, you know, hey, looking out the window. So we get up to the backstage area, and then some other security people slide open the gate, and I go in. The limo goes in, and another car, I think, came in with us. There might have been another security vehicle behind us. I can't. Anyway, 3 vehicles go in. They slide the gate back closed. Paul, Paul, Paul. You know, people screaming, yelling. And then Paul's car goes into a more of an inner sanctum. So we're in the backstage area where the cars are parked. Then there's another little gate that his limo goes right into. And then they close that gate. So I stayed cool. I pulled up in my car and I sat there. I got out of my car and I stood there and had all my stuff on my front seat. I had my shirts, my gifts for them in case, and my camera. I had an old 30, we didn't have phone cameras back then. I had a 35 millimeter camera and I just kept it with me. I waited and I waited, and you know, people were outside the gates and yelling and stuff. But I was happy we got him in there safe and everything went well. All of a sudden, that security guy, his personal security guy who had struck up the conversation with me at the helipad, comes out of the inner sanctum gate and walks up to me and goes, come with me, come with me. It seems like a dream now to me, but I picture this man going, come with me.
Like a siren to the rocks. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Come with me. So I was like, yes, sir. So I got my little security hat on. I've got my gifts and t-shirts for Paul and Linda in one arm. I've got my camera in the other arm, and I'm like a little rabbit running. Oh yes, yeah, I'm coming. And I followed them into the inner sanctum, and they closed the gate. Now my car is still outside with the other parked cars. I go in, and now this inner part is where the trailers are over here on the left, and there's big tents on the right, and you could tell this is where the backstage stuff happens. This is where the food is, and the drinks and the beer and the celebrities who come to see, you know, Paul holds court and they come see him. So I was like, oh, so he says, he takes me over to the trailers and he says, wait here, just stand by these trailers here. I'll be right back. I said, yeah, absolutely. So I was like a statue. I just like, okay, stand here. And I have to say, I was very calm and professional. I said, don't blow this. Don't be a fanboy and start shaking and crying. Do it. You know, you're wearing a uniform here. You want to look professional. You want to look like you're above it all a little bit. So I was calm. And I remember standing there and seeing Robbie McIntosh, like with his clothes on and like a cleaning clothes hanger. I saw him walking into a trailer. I saw things. I remember seeing their son, James, and another young boy walking around the backstage area. And I just stood there. I'm just going to wait. About 10, I know when he said to me when he left me there, he said, he's in a meeting right now for the video shoot. When he's done with the meeting, I may be able to get you to go spend some time with him. I said, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'll wait right here. So he was in a meeting. About 10 or so, 15 minutes later, I don't know what it was, the gentleman came back. He came back under a tent and said to me, again, that same dream, like in my mind was, come with me, come with me, come with me again. Like, oh, okay. So I said, okay. Followed him through this big like circus tent, under the circus tent with there was carpeting and all this stuff and caterers and I made my way through all this stuff and chairs and things. And I got to the other side of this big circus tent, and then we break open out into the open air outside of that tent. And just as I came through the tent, I look up and there he is. I see him. He was on the far side of all these tents, just him and another guy. He was like, it was like if I walked through the tent and just saw you standing there, or Joe Mean Mr. May. It was just a guy standing. He was just a guy standing there. He was wearing black sneakers, black jeans, and he had his Nebworth. Nebworth had happened. The big Nebworth concert had happened like a week or two prior. He's wearing a Nebworth. You'll see it in the picture. He's wearing a Nebworth T-shirt, and he's just standing there with his hands in his pockets, like shooting the shit with people, like. And I'm walking towards him. He's talking to one of his security guys, but there was no one really around him. It wasn't like an entourage. It wasn't like, it was just him standing off on his own in like a secluded area of the backstage area.
You could have tackled him if you wanted to.
Yeah, I could have. Yeah,
oh my God, that's insane. This is so pre 9/11. You know what I mean? Oh my God.
Oh yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, with security and stuff. I mean, they didn't know me from Adam. I mean, I could have yeah. But anyway, as I walked towards them, he looked up and nodded at me and acknowledged me and goes, "Hey, good evening. How are you doing?" I said, "Hey, Paul, how are you?" And I reached out and shook his hand.
How are
And
you?
how are you?
Oh my God.
And he was like, "Oh, I'm trying to remember what he said to me. It's kind of, he was like, "Thank you very much for what you did for us tonight. We appreciate it." You know, like, thank you. Like, he thanked me. I forget his
Yeah.
exact word. It was basically like, "Thank you for what you did. We appreciate you helping us get backstage safely. Hey, thank you." You know, I said, "Oh, you're welcome." I said, No problem." And I said, I was very calm and I treated him like you and I are talking right now. I didn't get all like fanboyish, and I treated him like a regular guy, and he seemed like just a regular guy, and well, he is a regular guy. And I just was very calm and, "Oh, you're welcome, Paul. No problem. Happy to do it." And then he said, "Are you going to the show tomorrow night?" And I said, I am, Paul." I says, "I'm going with the entire family." I says, "I'm going with my wife and my parents and my brother." And he seemed very taken with that. Like, "Wow, you're not just some guy who's trying to come here and get a free handshake from me or a free autograph, or you're a fan." And I even at one point said to him that I liked Flowers in the Dirt. That was the album he was touring at the time. And I remember saying to him, "Hey, I really like Flowers in the Dirt, Paul. It's a really good album. I really enjoy it. One of your best, I was really building it up a little bit." And he seemed very taken, like, wow, this security guy, he's not just some schlub who doesn't care really about me or my career. And he's just here to say, "Hey, guess what? I met Paul McCartney. This guy really likes me. He likes my album. He's going to my show tomorrow night. He's a fan, you know?" And he seemed very taken with that when I was acknowledging that, "Yes, I'm going to your show. Yes, I like your new album." He seemed very pleased with that. And we chatted a few more minutes. He asked me about my job and how I liked it. And do I have any, besides, I told him my wife and I were going to the show. He said, "Do you have children?" I said, "Yeah, I have 2 little boys," and blah, blah, blah. And it was just like talking to you, Sam. It was just like talking to a regular, just a guy, guys having a chat about life and things and how you doing. And then at one point he said to me, "Hey, would you like a picture?" Because I'm holding my camera. Oh, I said to him,
Look a picture. Yeah. Oh my God.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry. First, I gave him the shirts. I said, "Paul, I have some shirts and some items here in this bag. I'd like to give to you." I said, "You can give them to anybody." I said, "There's multiple sizes in here. There's some for wildlife preservation, animal rights. There's a couple of law enforcement shirts in here, and this and that." I says, and he took them graciously and handed the bag. He took a couple out, and in the picture you'll see he's holding a couple like this near his chest, and he gave the main bag to one of the other people there, one of his security people. And he said, "Would you like a picture? I see you have your camera." I says, "Oh, would you mind?" I said, "I really would." "Oh, yes." Oh, and he motioned to one of the security guys, Take a picture, take a picture." And so, do you want to see the picture first, Sam, or the autograph that he gave me? It's up to you.
Picture first. Picture. It's going to be the
Picture first.
Yeah.
So I have several copies of it, but here's the picture. Let me try to get. Let me do this as best I can. I'm gonna get this. But see, he's wearing his Nebworth shirt. He's holding the T-shirts. Some of the T-shirts. He took some out of the bag.
Oh my God.
I have my little security uniform on. Oh, and I have one more thing I forgot to tell you. Damn it, I got to do that too. But that's the. Let me try again. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. That's
perfect. Better. That's perfect. It is a Nebworth shirt as well, yeah. God, that's 1989 Paul all over. That is the hair.
It's July 25th, 1990 at Fox.
Oh, 1990. Oh,
backstage, yeah. And that's me. I'm only 29 there. I'm 29 years old. Paul's like 40 something, 40, 48, 47.
I've got a year ago to meet him for me to beat your record then. Oh my God.
Well, you look how young looking he looks there.
Oh my God, that's fucking Paul McCartney. What? And then how'd you get the autograph? So
one thing I did forget to say is when I first walked up, you notice that looks like a little old, like a UK Boy Scout hat I'm wearing.
Yes.
The little like Smokey the Bear hat. He commented on that when I walked up also. He said to me, "I used to have a hat like that." I said, "You did?" He said, "Yes, when I was in the Boy Scouts in Great Britain," or I forget how, I can't do a good Paul. "When I was in the scouting in Great Britain as a young boy, we used to wear a green hat like that." And I don't know scouting in the UK, but I
That's
guess
so
back
annoying.
in,
I was in the Cub Scouts here in the UK, and we never got a hat like that. That's
he
I've
said
cheated.
it looked like that. I says, no, you did? Yes, I used to wear a hat like that. And, you know, I thought about it later, Sam, and people have joked with me since. They said, why didn't you give him yours? And, you know, at the time, it didn't even cross my mind. I should have just taken the damn thing off and said, Paul, take this one. You can have it. But yeah, he probably wouldn't have wanted my grubby hat anyway. So I I didn't even think of it. But so after that, I was with him about 10 minutes or so, and he was just hanging out waiting for the video shoot. So we had time to kill, I guess. And then he said, he motioned to somebody to get a picture for me. He seemed like he liked me, I guess. And he said, give me a picture. I forget how he worded it, but someone brought over an 8x10 picture and he signed it for me.
Oh, wow.
Let me try to, there's Paul, a great picture of Paul from the 89-90 World Tour earlier in the tour.
The classic fashion of that period. Yeah.
And on the side of white border, he signed his name for me. So
I need a signature so bad.
I love that.
I love this. Oh,
I love that picture of him. He looks so he just looks happy and vital, and
he's got a very Beatle Paul expression on his face. You know what I mean? That kind of chipmunk mouth shape.
Yeah. And there's this is a black Sharpie. He used a black Sharpie type pen back then. So So we gave out pleasantries, and he thanked me again, and I thanked him. So thank you so much, Paul. Really nice to meet you, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hey, enjoy the show tomorrow night. Oh, I will. Thank you so much. And basically, I turned around. The security guy said, "Do you know your way out?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I do." And I started walking through the tent. He remained there with his people, and I walked through the tent and left. And as a little quick bonus, as an aside, when I got on the other side of the tent, I have no picture of her. I have no autograph of her. As I got to the other side of the tent, I heard a female voice call out to me and say, "Thank you very much." You know, and I turned, and it was Linda walking with somebody up the hill from the backstage area. And I only had a moment with Linda, but I turned and walked towards her, and I said, "Oh, you're welcome, Linda. Nice to meet you." I shook her hand. She asked me, "Thanks for your help again. We appreciate it." We exchanged pleasantries. I think she asked me also, "Are you going to any of the shows?" And I said, "Yes, I'm going tomorrow night." And I went last night too. I forget all the wording, but it was only a moment, Sam. I was with her maybe a minute. And then I just turned and kept walking. I didn't have the presence of mind to stop and say, "Linda, can I get a picture with you too? You know, can I get your picture? Hey, Linda, will you sign?" I was so on cloud nine from meeting Paul and what just happened with Paul that I was just happy to have a quick exchange with her and say, "Yeah, oh, you're welcome." And then I kept walking, and I got in my car and
She's
left.
probably used to that. She's probably used to just dazed commoners just going, "Okay, goodbye now. I'm going home now."
And I'm grateful. I am grateful I had a moment with her and I was able to say hello to her and meet her, but I didn't have something for her to sign. I had the camera, but I didn't think to ask, "Can I get a picture with you?" It just, my brain was fried at that point. And but I did meet her briefly on the way out the door.
Those
so anyway,
are worth more than any
I hope I didn't ramble too much with that story, Sam, but there's so much to it. And when I start telling it, there's so much runs into my brain that I try to get everything out in the order it happened. And sometimes I forget things, you know.
Am I going to sit here and pretend like if I met Paul that I wouldn't be telling the most overly complicated, unerudite version of the story possible, just to keep telling you, just to relive it a second?
Well, that's what happens every time this happens. Someone meets me, or someone in my personal life wants me to tell them about the time you met Paul 30 years ago now. It seems like it's half my life ago now. I always start I start sweating, and I start I have to get every little detail in there, and sometimes the story can go on and on and on, and I don't want to do that to you. But anyway, that's my last thing I wanted to show you. The thing that means so much to me from my Paul's attic is the fact that I had the lucky, I know I'm just a lucky individual. I was in the right place at the right time to meet him and spend some time with him. And I'm eternally grateful for that. So that's my number 5 Macca in the Attic item that I had to share with you.
Evidence item number 7,050,000,050 that Paul is incredibly cordial and excellent with his fans. You know,
He was so gracious to me. I know there's been stories about him and Ringo being grouchy sometimes, but I didn't experience
Really? I've never heard that. I've never heard that. And that's not even me being sarcastic. You know, the closest thing I've heard is, after April, whatever, do not send any more fan mail. I won't be responding to it. No. You know, why don't we as a fan base go, right, Paul, after December 6th, no more multiple versions of the same album. We won't be buying them. Peace and love. Goodbye. Just something I wanted to touch on quickly just before you go.
Sure.
Have you ever noticed people never ask with a CD, have you played it yet?
Played the what? Yeah, I'm sorry.
So like with vinyl, people always say, have you taken it out? Have you played it? With a CD, you never get that. I was just thinking about that with your unplugged one. Have you played it? What's the point?
I think it's again, I have another one I've played, and then I have this one. So I have 2 of them. It's one of the cases where I have multiple copies. I usually don't have multiple copies of something. It's if I have something, I have it, and that's it.
One for fun and one for posterity, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for showing me those Macca items from your attic. What a way to close us out there as well. That was a pretty. I'm left speechless again. And I always say that I'm rarely ever left speechless, but every episode I've proven that I am more than capable of that. Yeah, 5 incredible items, 5 plus incredible items, should I say. Thank you so much for coming on, man. And it was finally great. It was finally great to meet you. And I hope we can do something similar sometime in the future, maybe even get you on the podcast proper, you know. But
absolutely. Yeah. And I want to thank you, Sam. Thanks for thinking of me. I'm very humbled and gracious that you had me on your show. It's an honor.
No, you know, it's always nice to show someone who's been on 2 legs what proper podcast hosting is, you know. Love you, Tom. Love you, Andy. Right, everyone. This has been another episode of Macca in Your Attic, a Paul or Nothing spin-off, side quest, distraction thing, whatever. You know the game by now. My guest today has been the indomitable Matt Street. And look at it! Look at that, folks. That's going to be the thumbnail for Ethan later. You holding that, definitely. You're going to be like that in the thumbnail. And I'll be like this. Like that, yeah. Oh, my God.
Whoa. Yeah. Have you like this? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Break it.
We all know how that we know how the game works, folks.
That's okay.
But
it's okay.
If I want to have a proper YouTube title, that it'll have to be The Hidden Mysteries of Matt Street's Attic, you know, because that's a properly enticing title. But it's not going to be called that. You are watching this episode right now, folks. You know it's just called Macca in Your Attic, episode 12 or 13. I can't quite remember. But yeah, this is the show. Peace and love. Play us out, Ringo. No more autographs.